Hello, it's Brenda. First, I just want to say thank you for all of your views and comments and likes on my last video. For this video, I want to look at a famous case of a haunting, and we can kind of talk about it and decide together if we think that it's based in fact or it's a big fat lie. I would actually like to do like a little series. We can look at a different case. You guys can tell me which ones you want to look at. I mean, there's a whole bunch out there, and a lot of people think a lot of these cases are just hoaxes. And then there's a great majority of people who think that these really happened, and it's terrifying if they really occurred. In this case, there was a family in 1986 who moved to a house in Southington, Connecticut. The family's last name was Snedeker, if I'm saying that correctly and not butchering it. And their story later went on to become a major motion picture known as A Haunting in Connecticut. So I've seen the film and I've read a lot of interviews and information that was published by the family. And I have to say that really the movie didn't do too bad with sticking with the actual storyline. Although, as any movie does, it definitely took some Hollywood liberties. It embellished some stuff, and some of it wasn't entirely accurate, but it actually didn't do too bad. The family says that when they moved to this house, that they were not told initially that it was a former funeral home. Now, the landlord later said that they did know. So that, that's a he said, she said sort of thing. But the family is adamant that they did not know until later when they found this room or something that was blocked off, and when they got access to it, they found a bunch of tools of the trade, and then they started to become aware of the history of the house. So at any rate, they moved to this house because the oldest son, Philip, was being treated for cancer. And this house was closer to the hospital than where they originally had lived. The house was within their budget, and it was big enough for the entire family, which consisted of the mom, Carmen, the dad, Alan, the older son, Philip, a couple of younger kids, and a niece who eventually came to live with them. Now, the story really focuses around Carmen and the children because the dad still had to work closer to where they originally lived. So he kind of stayed there during the week and then just came on the weekends. And he didn't seem to be as a big part of the story as Carmen and the children. So a lot of what we talk about is really going to focus on them. The day they move in, right from the start, Philip is saying the house is evil. He's already experiencing things. Carmen, who is a very level-headed woman and also a very spiritual woman, certainly doesn't jump to the conclusion that the house is haunted, there's demons in the house. She assumes that it's the medications that he's taking, the treatment that he's undergoing, that it's causing him to have side effects, hallucinations. And that's kind of a testament to her that she didn't just come, plunging right in believing that the house was haunted. So a little bit of time goes by, and Philip just starts acting really odd. His whole behavior is changing. His personality is changing. He is just constantly talking about, these terrifying experiences that he's having, shadows and voices and, ghost children. And at this point, Carmen's not experiencing anything. So she comes to the conclusion that Philip needs more help than she can provide in the home. She sends him off for, medical and psychiatric in-house treatment. So now Philip, for the time being, is out of the picture. Now the younger children step up and start talking about their experiences. Now they're starting to see things, they're starting to hear things. And the niece even starts talking about some really traumatic and horrifying sexual experiences that she's having. And Carmen ends up witnessing this. The niece is like, you know, Aunt Carmen, like it's touching me. And Carmen says that she sees her niece's shirt being pulled up, moved about by unforeseen hands. Can you imagine? So at this point, Carmen is really coming to the conclusion that this is real, this is happening. And being that she's a spiritual woman, she calls in a priest and then eventually calls in paranormal investigators, including the famous Ed and Lorraine Warren, who were very well known demonologists. They are both deceased now. Lorraine actually only recently deceased. And the conclusion from all the parties involved is that not only is this house haunted, but that there is an evil presence in this home. So they end up doing an exorcism, apparently a long, drawn out, like 3-hour exorcism. And the family ultimately moves. Now, I've watched some very early interviews and then some later articles and stuff that were written, and there is just a huge debate about whether or not this family is telling the truth or if this whole entire thing was made up. And I have to say, I think it's very sad that even some of the neighbors that lived around the house that called Carmen really a liar actually belittled her, made fun of her for some of the sexual things that Carmen says took place, eventually not only to the niece, but also to her. And I just have to say, if there's even this much chance that she's telling the truth, how brave of her to include that when she went public, because that can be really helpful to other people that are going through it so that they don't feel alone or feel like they're crazy. You know, that took a lot of courage for her, and for people to just, laugh at her. It's just, I think that was just really very sad and unfortunate. But at any rate, one of the reasons that people gave for why she would have possibly made up the story was that she was struggling financially. Anybody would be in her situation. She had mounting medical bills because of her son, and some people believed that she made this up as a way to profit financially from the story if it got to be sensationalized, if she went public and, people maybe would pay her for her story or whatnot. And as a mom, I just have to say, there's no way that I believe that that could be her motivation or anybody's motivation in her situation, because you have to remember that her son had a good chance of dying. Now, he did ultimately survive cancer at that time, but at the point that this was all happening, she was facing the possibility of her son dying. So I don't know how she would have had the time or the creativity to make up such an elaborate story. The time that it took to not only make up the story, but to get all of her family involved in it, including small children, and get everybody on the same page with their story if it was all just made up. And then, to call in a priest. Remember, she's a very spiritual person, so she's going to call in priests and lie to their face. And then she's going to have these paranormal investigators come into their home. Because, when they come into your home in a big case like this, they don't just come in, and look around and say, yes, it's haunted or no, it's not, and go about their business. They are like in your home. They are in your family day-to-day life and routines. And I can't even imagine that that has to be really overwhelming. And especially when she was already in a vulnerable state going through, her son being so ill and, all of this. I, I can't see that she would have had the mind to do that at that time, to take away from the time that she could be focusing on her very sick son, to put all the time and energy that that would have taken. I don't believe that. It doesn't seem realistic to me. The other reason people gave for why they didn't believe it was that the family that moved in after them said that they didn't experience anything. Well, that, if you follow paranormal cases, that's not really that unusual. Not every family in every home that's allegedly had a haunting experiences the same thing or a haunting at all. Sometimes it seems like it's a mixture of different things that can bring it about for one person or one family and not another. And they would have had so many key elements to make this possible. You had the older son who was sick, and that in itself could be a weakness, that could certainly open him up to it. Carmen seems to be sensitive, and we'll talk a little bit more about her in a couple minutes, but she seems to be sensitive, although I don't think that she realized it prior to this. There was younger children in the home. We know that younger children often, homes with younger children tend to experience this more than homes that don't, and especially a teenage girl in the house. That's like one of, the most common key factors. And, so it was almost like a perfect psychic storm for this to happen. So I don't find it, I don't find that as a powerful conclusion as to why this was automatically a hoax. For me, I believe this happened. I could be wrong, but I believe that it happened. Their story sounded authentic to me. I have had the pleasure of messaging with Carmen, and I have to tell you, she is a delightful woman. She seems just honest. She seems sincere. She doesn't seem to be walking around with, a badge on her that she's the mom from a haunting in Connecticut. She has used what happened to her to help other people. Once I think she went through this, and I think when she realized, that she was sensitive to this, she really used that to, and her story, to help other people that were going through similar things. She works with paranormal, she works with other families, and not all of it is for profit. I mean, she is not getting, rich off of this. She is doing this because it's meaningful to her because of what she and her family went through. She continues to be a very, I don't want to say religious. I don't know if she is or not, but she definitely is a very spiritual person. She holds that dear to her. And because of that, I just don't, I didn't get a feeling from her that she was a fake, that she made this up. This seems to be something that still, really affects her. And she just, to me, she came off as very authentic. So me personally, I am going to say I believe the story. I believe that this family endured this. I haven't seen any evidence that makes me feel like this is a hoax. There's no way that this happened. So if you feel differently, if you think the family just lied about the whole entire thing, let me know. Let me know what you think their motive would have been to do that. And also, if you, like me, believe that this did happen, then go ahead and let me know that too. And let me know what stories you would like to look at and talk about. And if you've had any experiences of your own, share those. So until next time, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.